In this episode today, we're talking about something that might already be simmering under the surface of your life. That quiet, exhausting feeling that says, I can't keep doing it like this. Something has to change. And if I don't, I might just actually scream, cry, run away, or set a light to it all. Welcome to The Accidental Rebel, Soul Truths for Women in Midlife. I'm Jen, philosopher, truth seeker, and your fellow midlife woman trying to make sense of this wild, sacred, sometimes ridiculous chapter. I'm calling it Midlife Rebellion and Claiming Your Truth. This is one for you if you've ever thought, you know what, I don't recognize myself anymore, but what is happening to me? And what is the universe trying to tell me? So let's talk about your inner rebel. Not the teenager who wants to run away, dye her hair purple and never pay a bill again, but the midlife rebel. The one who looks around at her life and quietly whispers, I've played nice. I've done the right thing. I've held it all together for everyone else. Now, what about me? If you're between about 45 and 55, navigating premenopause or menopause, and feeling that urge to do life differently, not by burning it all down, although at times that feels totally tempting, but by finally honouring who you really are, then this one's for you. Because midlife rebellion doesn't have to be running away, having an affair, or quitting your job. Sometimes it looks like finally saying no to what drains you, admitting that you're bored, you're frustrated, or you're done with proving yourself, letting go of old roles and masks that never truly fit, and slowly, gently, redirecting your fire into purpose, truth, and soulful direction. I never set out to be a rebel. Most of my life, I've quietly walked my own path, often unseen. I wasn't the loudest in the room. I didn't smash the table and demand attention. But as menopause reshaped me, my body, mind, and my soul, that quiet midlife rebellion just started knocking louder. At some point in midlife, many of us have this moment, when you look in the mirror and you think, who is this woman? And why does she look so tired? And you've only just woken up. The wrinkles and crinkles are more noticeable. The weight seems to appear just by looking at food. And there's this stubborn injury that won't heal, and an ache that seems to take its permanent position in our joints and muscles. And yet we push on, because the to-do list doesn't get complete by itself. People still need lunches, lifts to school, emotional support, clean clothes, clients to call. And I remember one morning so clearly, another restless night of hot flushes, tossing, turning, aching all over, and I swung my feet out of my bed. I felt this dull, aching, nagging pain in my heels. Ugh. And then I caught my reflection in the mirror. Hair wild, new lines under my eyes, a soft ghost of a double chin. And for a split second, I wanted to crawl back under the covers and opt out. But there were kids to get to school, clients to hold space for, and a whole day waiting for functional Jen. And in that moment, I realised that the person the world expected me to be and the woman in the mirror didn't match. If you've had your own "who is this woman" moment in the mirror, just take a breath. Nothing's gone wrong. This is often the very place where your midlife rebellion begins. Not as a destruction, but as a truth knocking at the door. Midlife has a way of bringing up unfamiliar fears. The physical changes can feel like betrayal. Anxiety and depression can creep in. And old memories and childhood wounds, perhaps unresolved pain, can resurface. And our minds start to play tricks with brain fog, losing words mid-sentence, and even forgetting why you walked into the room. And then there's the cultural backdrop. In so many stories of the post-menopausal woman, she's the witch, the evil stepmother, the mad woman in the attic, or she just disappears into the background, invisible. It can feel like we're being slowly sent out to pasture, asked to stay small, stay quiet, and fade out gracefully, please. No wonder so many women feel rage and grief, or this sense of what is happening to me. But here's what I discovered. Midlife is actually a treasure trove of opportunity if we're willing to see it that way. Instead of being the end of the story, it can be a powerful initiation, a reclaiming of our voice, and a chance to flip the narrative and become that wiser, truer version of ourselves. We can become our own rebels. We can reshape our lives so that they actually include us. And we can start becoming the kind of ancestor that we wish we'd had. Just check in with yourself for a moment. Are there places in your life where you feel like you're slowly disappearing? What might your inner rebel be whispering about those areas? Our generation is becoming the pioneers of letting go of outdated good girl rules. You may have seen or heard of the We Do Not Care Club. It began when Melanie Saunders in Florida filmed a spontaneous video in a car park. She was declaring that she was done being all things to all people. And women around the world just started responding with lists of what they no longer cared about. And when I first heard about this, something stirred in me as well. And I realised I don't care that my skin has pigmentation, wrinkles, and grey sparkles in my hair. They are my stripes for living a full life. I don't care that social media experts say I must post every day or be punished by the algorithm. You know what? I'm not a monkey at the circus. And I don't care that the laundry is piling up, the bed's not made, and someone's hungry. If you want it, and I'm exhausted, you're capable, you go for it. It felt like a breath of fresh air. Not from a place of apathy, but from a place of self-respect. A quiet midlife rebellion that says, I will no longer sacrifice myself at the altar of everyone else's comfort. I see this pattern over and over in the women that I work with. One of my clients, Ellen, came to me asking, who am I? She remembered a woman who travelled the world, painted, loved creative cooking, but that version of her had felt very far away. She'd given up her career to raise a family. Life had quietly rearranged itself into this unspoken hierarchy, and in this order: husband, children, the business, household, and then if there was anything or any G left, maybe her. Guilt about not being the breadwinner in this capitalist worldview made choosing herself feel almost impossible. So she kept rescuing, fixing, being available for everyone else as proof that she was good and worthy. Sound familiar? The cost? Exhaustion, resentment, a deep sense of being contained. In our work together, she began to see how deeply those old patriarchal myths were embedded. Be nice, don't rock the boat. Sacrifice yourself to keep everyone else happy. Don't be too successful or you'll threaten someone. And when we were naming this, her first act of midlife rebellion was not by shaving her head or moving to Bali, quite yet, but by quietly reclaiming permission to create, to rest, to say no, and to have a life that included her. Where in your life have you been putting yourself last in the unspoken hierarchy? If you were to reorder that list, even slightly, what might change? Let's look at the deeper transformation of your midlife rebellion. Midlife has a way of peeling off our well-worn masks. Maureen Murdoch, author of The Heroine's Journey, talks about how girls and women are taught to shrink themselves, to be attractive, to be helpful, unselfish, and competent without complaint. By midlife, when we look honestly at our lives, many of us find rage about time sacrificed, sadness for how long we've abandoned ourselves, and a sense of helplessness about what to do next. The turning point is when we realise, you know what, no one is coming to rescue me from this pattern of self-betrayal. That moment is the heart of midlife rebellion. For me, this wasn't a one-time lightning bolt. It was a slow lifting of the veil. During pre-menopause, I started noticing how I'd been silencing my voice and hiding my spiritual gifts, and my deeper knowing, minimizing my natural joy, intuition, and pattern seeing in the more corporate left brain environments. With clients, I'd seen how people wanted happiness and health and self-worth, but many just didn't want to do the deeper inner work to reclaim it. Those who did, amazing to work with. Their transformations were profound, but many want a quick fix or a surface level version of success. Meanwhile, I was working hard as mother, wife, employee, sole business owner, collecting those badges of busyness, people pleasing to avoid conflict, and shrinking myself in rooms where being intuitive or spiritually minded wasn't valued or the norm. And I tell you what, I have experienced my fair share of male prejudice and sadly betrayal from women too, with gossip, manipulation, and being taken advantage of, all of which taught me to be quiet, agreeable, and safe. And I found approaching 50 that self-silencing started to feel like a slow leak of my life force. I was bored, frustrated, and uninspired. I knew something needed to shift, even if it didn't yet know what the new shape was. If you feel that mix of boredom, resentment, or restlessness in your own life, can you let it be information rather than a personal failing? Often that discomfort is your inner rebel saying, it's time. So let's talk about why rebellion hits at around 50, the astrology piece. You know, I love to bring astrology into this because it gives language and timing to what we're living through. At midlife, there are two big cosmic players that tend to stir all of this up. There's the Saturn square and our Chiron return. So what is that? Saturn is like the cosmic reality checker. It rules responsibility, boundaries, commitments, the structures of our lives. And around late 40s to early 50s, Saturn forms a tense square to its position in our birth chart. Think of it as a kind of friction that asks, is this really working for you? Where are you saying yes when you mean no? What needs restructuring so that the second half of your life actually fits your soul? For me, this Saturn square pushed me to stop taking on clients who only wanted quick fixes, setting firmer boundaries with my time and my energy, and creating space for the work that felt truly meaningful. Then we have Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron represents our deepest wounds, but also our greatest medicine. And around midlife, Chiron returns to the place it was when we were born. So it brings up things like old insecurities, fears that we've conveniently tucked away, patterns of being not enough or too much. On reflection, I could see my Chiron wound so clearly. My most meaningful, alive moments came when I spoke from the heart. It cut through the noise and named the deeper truth in the room. The very parts of me that had been dismissed as too much, too deep, or too naive were actually my gifts. My Chiron return asked me, are you willing to own this now? Are you willing to stop hiding? Are you willing to build a life that celebrates this instead of constantly apologizing for it? Together, Saturn and Chiron at midlife create this perfect storm for rebellion. Not chaos for chaos' sake, but a soul-level reorganization. Here's the thing. Midlife isn't about burning it all down. It can look like that, and sometimes big change is necessary. But more often, midlife rebellion is about redirecting the fire. Instead of setting fire to your whole life in one go, or desperately clinging on to anti-aging everything, trying to preserve who you were back at 30, you can choose to let the discomfort move you towards a more honest identity, to question the roles that no longer fit, and ask, what kind of life would better fit my soul now? For me, that didn't happen overnight. There were years where I was derailed by illness and injury, fatigue, and family stresses. I hit points of wondering, will I ever feel like myself again? And do I actually want to keep doing this work? Should I perhaps just retire quietly and give up on whatever this purpose thing is? It wasn't until I gave myself permission to step out of my life on a menopause retreat that something really clicked. Away from the daily noise and the demands, I could finally hear my soul whispers again. I saw that I'd been suppressing my longing to write. I'd been distracting myself with constant busyness in a business that no longer fit. And I was ready to stop hustling and start honouring the deeper work, writing, mentoring, soul-level support. And that was my midlife rebellion. Not storming out, but reorientating my time and my work and my energy around what felt truly aligned. And now I feel clearer and calmer, more alive and more intentional about the second half of my life. I'm also very conscious not to talk myself out of enjoying it, because those old guilt voices are still trying. Are you being selfish? Shouldn't you do more? Shouldn't you be more available? My rebellion now is to notice those voices and keep choosing my soul anyway. What might your rebellion look like? Take a breath and ask yourself, if my midlife rebellion didn't have to be dramatic or destructive, what might it look like for me? Maybe it's a boundary, a conversation, a retreat, a creative project, or simply a sacred no. If this is landing for you and you're wondering, okay, but what do I do with this? Here are some possibilities. So you might take yourself on retreat, even a weekend, just to step away from the daily demands and reconnect with your authentic self. You could redesign your work week with fewer days or different hours to create space for exploring who you're becoming. You could work with a soul coach or a mentor who understands midlife transformation and can walk you through it. You could give yourself a gap year energy. You could travel, study, do a creative sabbatical, or simply focus time for the inner work. Or you could start small but powerful by saying things like no to obligations that drain you, by starting the creative project that you've been postponing for years, or speaking your truth kindly, clearly, where you've been silent. You see, your midlife rebellion doesn't have to be loud to be real. It just has to be honest. The rebel inside you isn't asking you to burn everything down. She's just asking you to build something new. A life that honors who you've become and celebrates who you're still becoming. As we close, I'd love to leave you with a few self-inquiry questions. You might journal on these later or just let them land in your body right now as you listen to them. I'll also pop these questions in the show notes below. So firstly, what would you try if you knew you couldn't fail, or if no one was judging? What did you dream of being or doing when you were younger, before life had other plans? How would you love people to remember you at the end of your life? What stories would you like them to tell about you? Looking back, what have your hardest seasons taught you? And how have they shaped who you are today? And this one, where is your inner rebel asking you to say no, or to finally say yes in this season? If this conversation has stirred something in you, a spark of recognition, a sense of, oh, that's me, you don't have to figure it all out on your own. To support you, I've created a free soul alignment meditation to help you calm your nervous system, hear your own inner guidance more clearly, and gently align with the next true step in your midlife. And if you're ready to go a little deeper, you're also welcome to book a complimentary 30-minute Soul Mastery Discovery call with me. It's a space for us to explore where you are right now and what your soul is whispering, and how a personalized support might help you navigate this midlife rebellion with more ease, clarity, and courage. All the details and links are in the show notes below. Thank you for being here and for being willing to walk this path of honest, soulful rebellion in midlife with me. This is the Accidental Rebel, Soul Truths for Women in Midlife. And until next time, honor your inner rebel and trust that she's leading you somewhere truer and more fulfilling.